and I may be jumping the gun here, but something I've been dying to talk about was I read an article, and in that article it said early on in the process, they realized 8 months of work, time and money had all been for nothing when their app developer disappeared with their life savings.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What's the story there?
So essentially, yeah. So me and Tommy met at university. We had no technical know-how at all. So I literally went to Twitter and I was like, hey, you want to build an app that's going to go in the App Store on Apple? And that was the only tech know-how we knew. Obviously, I got loads of DMs, people like, oh yeah, SQL, this, I don't even understand your CV. And then there was some guy that kind of reached out, was like, hey, love what you're doing. And then it seems interesting. And he spoke to me in layman's terms, and I'm just like, you know what, let's go with him, because at least I can understand what he's saying. Anyway, so we had a deal with him where we were paying him, I think $1.5K or something every month. So at the time I was working at Barclays, Tommy was at final year university, did a dissertation. So we were kind of like using like our complete savings together and then paying this guy every month and whatnot, blah, blah. And then 8 months in, and remember, we have no technical know-how. So up to now, we could have just been getting just framework UI and stuff, but we wouldn't know, right, at the time. And I kind of had a bad mentality at the beginning where I was kind of like, hey, you're the tech guy, go over there, build it. When you finish, come back, and then we sell it. And that's what basically messed everything up. And essentially, one day, messaged me on WhatsApp as we normally communicate. Only one tick was going through. I was like, okay, strange. Then the profile picture disappears. I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on? Blah, blah. And then, he just never came back, literally. And then because of my attitude, I don't like to, of course he did something wrong, but I don't like to kind of like blame him, it's your fault. But again, I didn't even know what GitHub was, right? So I couldn't even find the source code or anything like that at all. So we literally had to then begin and start again. And then I taught myself how to code.
Jeez. so in that moment, like, what were you thinking? So you're sending him messages. It's only one tick going through.
Yeah.
And right now it's like, cool, maybe he's on a train. Maybe he's busy.
You start thinking about all this.
Yeah. But like, it's pretty chill. But then eventually, like
a couple of days go past, no messages back. Then you start researching on Google, like, if someone's WhatsApp display picture, because what does that mean? Trying to see some kind of excuse is what it is. Then it started to dawn on me. And literally, I went through 2 weeks of like deep depression, because it's like I've all my savings I've put into this, and also the amount of time as well. This is like 8 months, and in the start part, 8 months is basically like 5 years. Like you just need to work on this thing. And again, I was then starting from square minus one, right? So because I didn't have the code at all, I didn't even understand the code at all. So I just wasted this 8 months of my life. So I remember literally 2 weeks. I just in my university accommodation. I didn't shower for I didn't go out. I don't remember eating. Like I probably made like a Tesco meal deal, maybe something like that. And I remember what got me out of my arse was basically randomly a Gary Vee video or something that just came up on YouTube. I don't know, it was something like that. And then all I remember him saying is like, "You've been upset, nobody cares. It's not going to change anything."
Yeah.
And that literally stuck in my head, and I'm just like, you know what? It's true. No one cares. Like, no creator cares. Nothing. No one cares. And I remember that same day I went on Udemy to download it. It was like a £25 course to learn how to code iOS. And again, I'm not, even up to now, I'm not an expert coder, but at least it taught me the basics so I had to actually understand. So that when we actually got a CTO on board, like I actually love learning from what he does, because I know that if he leaves now, I can take over the interim.
That's really useful. It sounds like absolute chaos and shit. I'm in pain hearing that. Like that's a fear of mine. Like I would love to get more into tech, and I'm a non-tech guy, and I could definitely try to code, but just seeing the growth of the other things that we've done, it makes me feel like, hey, maybe there's a very macro level understanding that I could gain, and then I could find the right people to help build it.
For sure.
But that is the ultimate concern and worry there. Something that you said was, I thought I would just get the person to build it and just kind of leave them to it. And it reminds me of how I used to do things. So I was indoctrinated with all of this kind of entrepreneurial shit that you hear from the famous entrepreneurs. They say, don't micromanage anyone, hire good people and leave them to it. And I was like, cool, I'm going to hire people and leave them to it. And this was like early days. This was like first, second employee. So I'd like bring someone on and I'd be like, no, I don't want to micromanage, just go. go do your thing. And I would cater so much around how they worked. So they're like, tell me exactly what you like and what don't you like. And say, I don't really like doing these analytics reports or whatever it was. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do them. That's all right. And there's just and it took me such a long time to realize that, like, within a job, there's a job spec. And within getting good at something, you need coaching. And if there's one person, i.e. me, who's been doing that specific thing for a year and a half at that point versus someone who's done it for a day and a half, there's a lot of coaching that you can give. There's a lot of guidance. And I was just so worried about being a micromanager that I was just so, whatever the opposite of that, just laissez-faire, not helping at all. But I found that interesting. Also, Gary Vee, I love that he's part of the story in some way. He's funny. Have you seen all the impressions of him? Eat shit, dude. I'm eating shit. Yeah, he's class. I like that.